Hello everybody, and as I'm sure you can see on the thumbnail and the screen today, we have something immensely different. I found this while going through, sorry I bumped my mic a little bit. I found this while going through some old articles, and I originally found this through a information request, but I'm going to leave that be for now. This right here is Congressional Record Appendix, January 10th, and if you can look at the dates on this screen, 1963. Thursday, January 10th, 1963. And our focus is on this article that I am highlighting right here. As we can see, the title of this article is Current Communist Goals, Extensions of Remark of Han A.S. Herlong Jr. of Florida in the House of Representatives. What I'm going to be doing with this series, I'm going to be going through this, and I'm going to be using all these points, and I think it'll be surprising to see how many of these points are actually relevant today, even though this was made roughly 50 some years ago. Actually, this would have been made, this is 2020, 80 years ago. No, my math's off, 60 years ago. Sorry, bad at math on quick things sometimes. Anyway, let's read the first header. Not header, paragraph. Mr. Herlong, Mr. Speaker, Mrs. Patricia Nordman of D-Land, FLA, is an ardent and articulate opponent of communism, and until recently published the D-Land Courier, which she dedicated to the purpose of alerting the public to the dangers of communism in America. At Miss Nordman's request, I include in the record under unanimous consent the following current communist goals, which she identifies as an excerpt from The Naked Communist by Leon Skousen. Now, we're going to go up here and search, if I can type. I can remove PDF. We're going to see what this book is, as I have never read this book. 1958 book by American political theorist W. Leon Skousen, former FBI employee. The book has been reprinted several times, most recently in 2014, printing through Izzard Inc. Publishing. Main subject of the book is a purported communist plot to overcome and control all the world's governments and not the members of the communist bloc. That are not members of the communist bloc, through the implementation of social progressivism and by undermining the American foreign policy through the promotion of internationalism and pacifism. Okay. So from what I'm getting from this is this book was written by a theorist, as stated, who brought up some points stating how communism may be brought to the United States. And for any of you who need a history lesson, communism is typically a very, very nasty form of government. And socialism in itself, yes, I know that is all the rage these days, but communism and socialism both, no matter who tells you what, are based on oppression of the people. That can be a discussion for another time, however. The reason I am making this video is this video states different steps and goals that would be needed to bring America to such a state. And for those of you who are watching this who may not live in America, who may live in a country like this, please, please educate your beliefs and what you see every day upon our American viewers. For I know those who live in said communist countries such as, or socialist countries such as Venezuela, Cuba, or Russia, maybe even China or Korea. North Korea, although I doubt any of them are on here, do not enjoy socialism and vehemently, if I said that word right, oppose it. Now, Today we're going to go through the first 3 goals and how they would be implemented and are currently, if applicable, being implemented in today's society. Now, this article, if you wish to read it on yourself, starts here, comes all the way down to here, then on page 2, runs this length to right here. And I'm going to be doing a video series on this and to discuss everything on here. I'm going to try to do about 3 points a video. That should keep the series to about 15 videos. However, I think it is very important for everybody to see what is actually happening. As I have believed mostly my entire life, politics is not upfront, it is sneaky. It tries to undermine and do things in the darkness. That is a very paranoid and crude way to look at it, but in reality, let's think of all the things that the government has done behind the people's back, even though the people are the boss of the government. We the people, not we the government. Now, point number 1. U.S. acceptance of coexistence as the only alternative to atomic war. Atomic also being nuclear, for those who may be confused. Basically, this is stating that the United States is going to coexist with members of the communist bloc, whether it be the USSR or at the time Eastern Germany, so that there would not be a nuclear war. As most of us know, there is no winning a nuclear war. It just spells the end of humanity. We can certainly see this, and we have always seen it since the advent of the nuclear weapon. Yes, the United States tested both new nuclear weapons, improving nuclear weapons, how to deliver said nuclear weapons, and how to spy on what the others were doing with their nuclear weapons. However, every country has done that, as that is the country's military job. Is they are paid to win. They are not paid just to keep the peace. They are paid to keep the peace by being the best, and to be the best, you need the best. Now, that is pretty self-explanatory as it is currently going on. This may not be, as I believe, this one and point 2 may not be necessarily causes of this. It is possible that these are part of the goals, and that this is actually a giant plot. It is also possible it is not. I am reading this from a non-biased standpoint of it may be, it may not be. This is just to show what is currently happening in this country and how it can be taken. And I am learning about these points as I go along with you. As we can see, we currently, most of the world is living at peace with each other, not wanting to engage in nuclear war. As we all know, a nuclear war would be unwinnable. Number 2. U.S. willingness to capitulate in preference to engaging in atomic war. Now, some of these words may be words that are not taught in school, so I'm going to go up here and I'm going to search. If I am right, this is the definition of willingness to talk to or surrender. Cease to resist an opponent or unwelcome demand. Surrender. So, I'm actually going to keep that tab open. Make sure I'm not doxing myself here. I'm not doxing myself. Good. So, I don't need that. Basically what this means is we are not going to resist any demands or any orders or any form of, basically any form of demand on the United States. In some ways we do this, in some ways we don't. Other countries, modern day, such as Russia, I do not know if this is still going on, but recently there was an issue of LGBT rights not being accepted in Russia and it being illegal, I believe it was. Don't quote me on this, it's been a while. And the United States really didn't say much about it. Yeah, we put out some news clips saying, oh, well, we condemn them, but we really didn't do anything about it. We were, as the article here says, capitulate to what they were saying. We did not strongly oppose their human rights issues, just as we do not really take into account the human rights issues of a lot of countries in the Middle East, in China, in Russia. There are always other countries that you could come up with a massive list of other countries that have massive human right violations. And we really do not do much about it, as we do not want to start a war with everybody at the same time. But specifically, even if we did it one at a time, we still do not really say much about it. Now, Russia has not demanded that we do this or that very often. Most recently, I believe they wanted us to stay out of Syria, I think it was, which we ignored for the most part. I believe that was President Obama. Ignored that request. Ugh. However, we did stay out of their invasion of Crimea. They requested that we stayed out, and we did stay out. Please excuse me for a moment. I need to take a hit off my good old vape. Alright. So that happens to an extent, but also not to an extent. We do see it happen once in a while, but we do not see it happen regularly. Number 3 is the big one for today. Develop the illusion that total disarmament by the United States would be a demonstration of moral strength. Keep in mind, I am reading this with you. So, I'm going to make my assumptions based on not having read the rest of this argument. I went over some of the more moot points and saw a few that stood out to me as, holy shit, I totally see this happening today. This is one of them. Now, this can mean one of two things, both of which would coincide with this goal, and is actually being seen quite prevalently in current presidential candidate Bernie Sanders. Develop the illusion that total disarmament would be a demonstration of moral strength. This works in two ways. One, nuclear disarmament. The United States removing all nuclear weapons, which is something that a lot of people advocate for nowadays. Personally, I think that would be a foolish decision, because that therefore means that nuclear war with the United States is winnable. And that would therefore make it more appealing to start a nuclear war with the United States. The problem with disarming everybody from having a certain weapon, or all weapons, is that now the ones who do have it are the only ones that have it. For an example, if everybody in the world took away their nuclear weapons, dismantled them, destroyed them, except for, how do I do this without being offensive to the community? Hell, we'll just use current events. Let's say everybody but North Korea. And this is a hypothetical. This is not saying this would actually happen, but this is a hypothetical. Everybody but North Korea dismantles their nuclear weapons. Now only North Korea has nuclear weapons. And let's say they advance their nuclear weapons to a point where they are actually good and can actually hit as well as the American or Russians did. Or do. Being able to hit precise targets on the other side of the planet. And have a reliability factor above falling off the launching pad. That would mean only North Korea has them. No one can do anything about it. They decide to launch missiles at Russia or the United States. Our only way to retaliate is with conventional forces. And while I am sure the United States could absolutely fucking crush, pardon my French, North Korea with conventional forces alone, that still would not be good enough. Because if they have nuclear weapons, they don't just have to target civilian cities. That is typically how they are used as mass casualty count to incur a surrender, as seen in World War II, which is another controversial topic, but we'll stay off of that for today. Of Japan, we loosed 2 nuclear weapons on 2 of their cities, inflicting mass casualties to include a surrender. That is one way they can be used. However, another way they can be used is to completely wipe out an opposing force. So let's say that happens. North Korea launches missiles on Washington, and San Francisco, and Hawaii, and all the major towns. We show up. We go to the South Korean side of the border with our entire force ready to just open a can of whoop ass on them. They drop 2 nukes on the border, our entire force is wiped out. And we have no way to retaliate against it. It's like fighting One Punch Man in the comics. No matter what the hell you do, he hits you, you're done. And there's no way to defend against it. Granted, I have not watched One Punch Man for several years, but... well, not several, I think it's been 2 years. But, however, I think most of you get my point. There's no way to defend against it. They have a weapon nobody else has. Now, the second part of this. Disarming the public would be a huge goal. I do not know if it states that later, but that would be a massive goal. The only way communism and socialism works is with a disarmed populace. Reason being is because the government has total control, not the people. So, the minority of the population have full control. And if the majority gets hurt, they don't care. Because the majority cannot retaliate. There is no consequence for what they do until eventually it just completely destroys the country, the economy, and everything else. That is why all of the current communist or socialist countries are, for a lack of better words, collapsing. Venezuela, Cuba, yeah, they look nice. They look nice in tourist photos. You can go right up here, and if you just search Cuba, and you go to images, looks beautiful, doesn't it? All these wonderful pictures of Cuba. Now, what if I told you that in Cuba, this would actually be a decent photo. You see this photo and these cars going all the way back there? I believe that this is the gas station in the capital. Now, what if I told you that this line of cars goes 1 or 2 miles long, and there are literally people pushing their cars to the gas station to get gas, and that almost nowhere else in Cuba can you find gas? What if I told you, let me look at this one, that there's all these nice buildings and favelas here that are all rotting away because nobody has the wealth anymore to take care of them. All these beautiful buildings, beautiful areas that would be absolutely glorious that are just rotting away, falling apart because nobody can take care of them. Let's see here. Is there any... I doubt they have any bad pictures on here because, as we all know, most people like to look good and not show their weakness. That is the same with all people. That's a climate change issue. Yeah, as you can see, these are all beautiful pictures. And that's supposed to be this wonderful tourist attraction. However, I do not remember the maker of the video. Let's just search in realities. Maybe somebody posted. There's some good ones. Everything's worn down and crappy. That looks like a decent picture. I'm just trying to find, because I have seen... There we go. Ruins. Trash, garbage, crap in the street. Okay, that's after Hurricane Sandy, so my apologies for that one. I do know that I have seen... I don't know if I can find it, because a lot of... This may be stupid of me to say, but I think a lot of people are censoring what you see so that you do not see the bad side of several countries, regardless of what kind of government they are under. I'm going to try to find... Yeah, here you go. Food shortages, low wages, exiled family. These are all videos you could go look if you so chose to. YouTube, this is fair use. Anyway, back to my point. So the government has absolutely total control until the government collapses, until the economy collapses, until the people suffer the worst. Now, in the United States right now, we have the Second Amendment. And with those of us who have firearms, if push came to shove and something horrible was going to happen, the people could take the government back. Many people say, you know, what are you going to do against the government with your AR-15s? Here, I'll even quote Joe Biden. You would need a F-15 and Hellfire missiles to take on the government. I'm sorry, but if that's true, we spent 10 plus years in Iraq against farmers with AKs. That's all they were. They were basically rednecks with AKs. Not even good AKs. Shitty, worn out AKs. And a couple of them, they got their hands on stockpiles of RPGs. They didn't have fighters. They didn't have jets. They didn't even have tanks. They had homemade technicals. That's why with the war on terrorism, we had air superiority and we just bombed the shit out of people. And it still didn't work. We sent tanks and fighters and bombers in and we fought for 10 plus years against them. And that's using the full strength of our military. The issue is, I'm just bringing this up so that you people can understand, if the United States were to try to use the military against the people, that's people fighting their brothers and fighting their sisters. Their mom, their dad, their aunts, their uncles. That is an American fighting an American, and there's no way that a soldier will make that decision. According to the current laws in the country, it is illegal for the president or any other cabinet to use the military other than the National Guard or the Coast Guard against the people. Even if they did otherwise, National Guard isn't going to do it. I mean, you're talking about... It's not the Democratic... Sorry, I apologize, but in reality... It's not really the Democratic people and the left people that are fighting. It's the Republicans and the conservatives that fight for God and country that are in the military. Yes, there are some people with the other beliefs, but it's a majority. People who go home and shoot a gun and pray to their God and love their family. That's why the government can't do anything right now, because we have that power over them. However, we lose that power. We lose the ability to take our government back. And that's what part 3 here is. If the people lose the power to stand up to the government can do whatever they want. And let's be realistic here. The government has no sense of responsibility at the moment. Everybody's complaining that here's what this looks like right now. Everyone's complaining about the government making these, I'm just going to quote, concentration camps for illegals, but you want them to take your guns. Yes, I watch conservative YouTube channels. Anyway, everyone's complaining about police brutality, but you only want the cops to have guns. That's logic I don't understand. I've gotten off topic, and I'm at roughly 25 minutes here, so I apologize. But for the most part, that's what I see number 3 being, is a complete disarmament of the populace and complete disarmament of the military. Nuclearly for the military. They wouldn't ask the United States to remove their military. They would just ask for them to remove nuclear weapons. And I know I went out on a tangent there. I did a little bit of rambling and a little bit of ranting. I apologize for that. I'll try to stay on topic. I don't do this very often, and I'm just working on making myself better at this. Now, if you're coming across this video and you are agreeing with anything on here, this is not normally what I would post. I try to post games, fun time, stuff like that. I have fallen out of it for a little bit because I've got my own stresses and whatnot on life. I saw this and decided, you know what, I need to kick myself back into doing it, so I'm doing it. Please like, subscribe. I will probably continue doing stuff like this. I'll probably have a mix of gaming and politics on my channel. As unbiased as I can be. And at some point, I'll make some videos I'll make some videos explaining my side on politics, as I use logic to think of everything. I know a lot of people like to use emotions and feelings. From my understanding, emotions and feelings just hurt people more. So I use logic to look at everything, and that's how I base my views and my votes on. Anyway, for those of you who watch, thank you for watching this video. I will be posting at least 2 of these videos a day, because I want to get this through and I want to get this out and I want people to be able to see it. Please share this video. Leave a like. Help me with the algorithm so that more people can see it. Leave a comment what you think about it. And as always, I will leave this exact article, this exact link will be in the description for anybody who wishes to read with. Enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you guys later.